All right, hello ladies and gentlemen. Here we are with another IGL, some 2v2s action, Tier 3 Div 6. We're having Apollo Esports, who is currently 4-0, coming up against Surfcyde, who is currently 2-2 in this US East Tier 3 Div 6 action. We will be waiting on the players to be able to join up and into the lobby, as they are expected to be starting here shortly, as they are starting on the hour. But we also did have a little bit where if we end up starting a little bit late, that might be understandable. But it looks like actually they were able to get the other team in here. I had some problems finding their Discord, but that one there's 4. Alright, as Rampage headed on out. So with that, we should be good to go. Alright, we will kick this one off then as we start off this matchup. Joining into the lobby, we have as Surfcyde is on orange and Apollo is on blue. Clad Monster takes this kickoff into the far side corner as this goes up to Drew and falls back down. Drew ends up taking Coral and plays to the far side. Drew with this one looking for a quick flick on Clad, but he is equal to the task. Clad plays off the sidewall, plays softly back towards the orange net actually, so Blue is forced to make a save to keep that one out. Drew tries to flick Coral as this ends up coming back towards the center, as Clad ends up going up for that one off the bounce off the back wall and ends up putting that one in relatively early to give Apollo a 1-0 lead. 27 seconds have passed, still lots of time, but Apollo jumps off to a 1-0 lead early in this one. Back to the kickoff. Clad and Blue meet up at the center. Off the side wall where Drew looks to take. Plays for it, tries to go in. Coral plays back across. Coral off the side wall looking for it, taking possession, trying to play in. Blue ends up taking Coral back off the side wall. That goes high, and that one looks like it should fall for Clad. Clad ends up taking the touch on it, putting it off the orange side back wall, drops straight down, but Drew is there for that to make sure that that's not an easy goal for Clad. He plays back out, tries to play towards the net, but Coral puts that back towards the orange half, and Blue will meet it there. Blue trying to take and throw this one back towards the center, but Clad will jump all over that one, as Drew then is taking off his own back wall, plays back towards the corner down where he should be able to get the next touch on this one. So he's taking, looking for it, cuts behind Coral, but Clad ends up taking that one back away, and then this goes back into the orange half. Coral off the wall with the pass out to Clad Monster, and it ends up hitting right off the crossbar. Close, but no cigar on that one. Coral with another shot, but Drew with the amazing save to keep it out of the net, and he pushes onwards into the blue half. In the blue half, Coral takes it, and that will leave it where Clad Monster grabs the save on the net. Blue plays this one off the sidewall, trying to look towards center. Coral ends up hitting out, but Drew is there for the read. That will drop back down, and Blue will be there for it, and he will tie this one up for Surfcyde, where this is now a 1-1 game apiece. With the read on Drew to make sure he gets that touch to keep it inside the blue half, and it opens up the net for Blue. Back to the kickoff square. Coral and Drew meeting up. This one goes to the sidewall, and it looks like Clad should take. Clad plays this high, drops back down. Blue needs to make a touch on that one. He plays out. As it plays out, it looks like Coral turns. Coral tries to play back towards the center, looking for a bumping path, but Drew avoids the demo and takes this one. Playing up, but Clad ends up taking that back into the orange half, playing sidewall. Blue needs to sit on it, tries to play forward. Coral plays with patience and ends up taking. Coral going high, looking for the ceiling shot, not quite able to land it. and this will fall down to Drew, as Drew is looking for a flick, but instead settles for a 50. Plays off the sidewall for Blue. Blue trying to go up high, but Coral was off backboard ready for that one, and that passes down to Clad Monster. Clad Monster ends up getting 50'd by Drew, and Drew plays this one back towards center, where he takes. Cutting across the field, trying to get it back up, looking for a flick potential. Ends up playing back towards the center, where Clad ends up playing that one out. Blue drops this one, and Coral will end up taking back into his own side corner. Grabs the boost and the ball. Goes for the aerial play out of this one. Going high, looking for it, trying to put it in, and he ends up dunking the first save by Blue and puts that one in, so Apollo can have a 2-1 lead in this one. Read the defender well and made sure he was there for his second chance, and made sure he converted on that one. 2-1, 2 minutes left in this one. Surfcyde finds himself trailing by 1. Plays on out off the sidewall plays out to Clad Monster, and Clad Monster converts on the mishap. There's an awkward touch off his own side back wall. Ends up playing out right towards Clad, and Clad makes sure he punishes him for that one. Back at it, 3-1 Apollo lead. To the kickoff to the kickoff again. Drew ends up playing high and across, but Coral sits on that one, tries to take off ground, where that will then be dropped by Blue, but Coral was sitting there waiting. He flicks across, but Drew is there for the touch. Clad tries to play back center, and he will end up getting that one into a back pass to Coral. Coral plays up, and it looks like this will be dealt with by Drew, as Drew plays offside wall. Looking for a play. Clad Monster plays back into the orange half out of the air. Blue with the touch to push that one to the side of the net, and this will then be taken by Coral, where Drew ends up meeting this one, trying to go for a flick, but Coral almost putting that one inside the near side pipe. Clad reads Blue on that one, and then ends up playing out with Drew into a 50 with Blue, and back across we go. Drew ends up taking this one with a quick flick to set himself up for a better dribble, and he'll end up converting with that, and he'll take the catch off the flick into a goal. 3-2 game where Surfcyde finds themselves now only trailing by 1. Still a very reasonable deficit with only 58 seconds. It's at really anyone's game at this point. Looking back to the kickoff circle, Blue and Clad meet as this is going to 50 out into the orange half. Drew needs to push this wide to make sure that this does not end up in front of his net, being a difficult problem. Blue with a 50 into what attempts to be another, but Clad's going to take that one, but it will end up finding itself wide, but Coral ends up sitting on it, tries to pass out to Clad. Clad with the touch, and it is high, and an unfortunate mishap on the play where it is shot down at an awkward enough angle, and the defender's read just wasn't quite right, and he'll end up putting that one in for the other team himself. A sad moment for the Surfside defense, where it's just an unfortunate bounce. But Apollo finds himself up too with 40 seconds left. Plays back out to Coral. He'll play back into the orange half, where Drew will try to take. Coral is trying to put on the physical pressure. Coral with a flick on this one, but goes just wide into a Blue and Clad 50. Blue is being the bully of this situation and making sure he gets the ball forward. Tries to play out towards center, but Coral is there for it. Coral ends up taking this one and beating Drew, but it does end up going just wide. With that, Blue grabs this one and plays out. They're going to need a quick one if they want a chance, but Clad will shut that down. Drew will dive to put that one wide, but that's about where we're going to end up dropping it. But Coral's trying to get one more for the road. Tries to play out towards center, not quite. Now it's Drew's turn. He just decides to let the ball drop, and we'll see game 1 go to Apollo on this one. Apollo find themselves with a 1-0 lead in the series, as we have had the Surfside support in the chat. Clad ends up leaving on this one, so I'm guessing we're probably getting a sub, as Rampage joins back. So I believe on that note, we should be good. Into this, we have Drew in game. We're good on that one, as everyone does get into the lobby in time. Back to the kickoff circle for game 2. Here we go. Coral and Blue meet up at the center. This one plays off the sidewall. Drew looking for a touch on this one, puts it back down towards center, where Rampage will take and try to play on, but Blue will meet it with the task. Coral plays, and Drew will take out of his own corner, looking for a play on it. 50s Coral, and it ends up going in his favor with a quick bump on Rampage, but not quite able to do much more with it as Rampage takes this one out nicely into the air dribble, but Drew jumps on that. Coral plays off sidewall where Blue ends up hitting back towards center, and it's coming towards the net, and Drew is there for that one. He makes the read, and the defender is put in an awkward spot where if he reads the ball, he might end up just getting faked and going in, but if he ends up not playing it, it ends up being a goal for Drew. So Drew with the right read on it and ends up making sure he converts on that passing play from Blue. Back at the kickoff, Rampage ends up taking that boost to try to dissuade, tries to play wide, and it looks like he plays down, and Coral will just beat Drew, and that actually goes straight onto the net. So with that one, a quick touch out of Rampage into a just banger out of Coral, and that will end up finding the back of the net to tie this one back up. 1-1 Apollo and Surfcyde. Find ourselves in a relatively even game so far. Blue and Coral meet up at kickoff. Drew tries to take this one as it drops down towards Rampage. Rampage playing off the back, and Blue will push that one to a corner. Rampage tries to play out, is 50 by Blue, but keeps possession. That ends up shooting up high into the center where Coral is going for a shot, pushes it to the far pipe, ends up hitting the pipe and bounces back out. Drew will take there as Rampage is trying to end up eating up all this boost, so there's no more plays to be had. And we see Blue try to take off the sidewall here. Blue looking for a play on it, ends up looking like he'll just take low, tries to flick, but Coral is there for the task. He plays back out to Rampage. Rampage going for an air dribble on this one, tries to push it into the far side corner, not quite there with it, and Drew will end up taking the possession. Drew with the play tries to flick it, it goes wide, not quite able to convert on that one. Drew plays, Coral ends up being 50'd, and it jumps back down into another 50. Drew with Coral this time. High ball up. Rampage and Drew end up pushing this one to a corner as they meet in midair. Coral tries to play out. Blue ends up hitting across on a play to Drew, but doesn't quite be able to get to that one. And Rampage ends up throwing a shot at the net, but Blue is there for the task as he makes the save in the sporadic defense. Rampage plays, and then Blue proceeds to possess again. Coral sits on this one, tries to play far side. Drew is there for it, plays back down the center, where it will end up back with Coral. Coral with a high flick off the sidewall that will end up leading to a Drew's touch. Off to Rampage. Rampage pushes this wide, and he's looking for an aerial play on this one. Tries to play off the back wall, not quite able to double up, but it is centered and for Coral, but Drew makes a great save on that one to keep this one a 1-1 game, and we find ourselves even. Blue plays this one back towards his own net. Unfortunately, not quite able to deal with it, but ends up beating all the defenders. Can't quite get back around it without the boost, but it does go center for Drew as it drops down towards the central, but not quite finding its way into the net. Coral plays this one forward. Drew ends up taking it and just pushing it back to the corner, so no more immediate threat. Plays down off the wall to Coral. Coral looking for a flick, does flick it. It ends up going high. Rampage was up for it, not quite able to put that one back towards the net. And Drew will end up taking with the high play, but Coral with a great save on this one on the recovery. Blue on G Fuel jumps at that one, but ends up hitting into Coral as he pushes this wide. Rampage starting off with an air dribble. Drew ends up catching on this one, and then it ends up being left for Blue. Blue tries to make a play. Drew tries to go, but Rampage with the one touch, and it goes over. But Blue end up trying to run back, not quite able to catch up with Rampage though, so that will be a 2-1 lead for Apollo as he is able to keep the breakaway chance that he has and make sure that the defender does not catch him on this one. 2-1 lead for Apollo, minute 30 left. Still anyone's game. Rampage and Drew at the kickoff circle. Looks like Drew is looking to take this one. Plays off back wall. Tries to double. Not quite. Ends up going down to Blue. And he 50s with Coral. Into the play where Rampage fires this one. But Drew is there for it. Equal to the task. Drew plays out with a flick. Rampage touches and with pass to Coral. plays back out center. And Drew will try to play this into the blue half. Drew with a pinch tries to go all the way across. Blue with a light touch back down, but Rampage sits on it and makes sure that he has that one. A quick demo play to turn the pressure, and that way Drew can take. Drew off the sidewall into the blue side corner. Blue side corner back across, but Rampage deals with it and pushes it wide. Back to Blue, looking for a play 50s with Coral, back into the corner. Drew ends up pinching, and pinches back to center for Blue. Blue tries to play this one across as we see Drew up for it. Drew out of the orange side corner looking, trying to make a play, but Coral ends up reading the play nicely to make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. Back to Blue, who ends up getting demoed by Coral, trying to create some pressure. But then it ends up going to Drew and bounces out, and Drew will convert on that out of the corner. Ties this one up 2-2. We're seeing quite a game here as Drew ends up making the read out of the, hitting it into the corner, hits it back out to himself, and he converts on it before Rampage was able to get back around it on defense. We find a 2-2 game between Apollo and Surfcyde. Anyone for the taking. 17 seconds left. Will it be in regulation, or will we need extra time for this game? Coral plays towards the center. It takes a bounce, goes high, and Rampage scores for this one. Apollo ends up finding himself with a 3-2 lead. Shortly after the tying goal, they find themselves pulling it back and saying, we do want this game is ours. So back to Surfcyde needing to prove it in regulation. Can they end up putting one more up in the final 8 seconds? Right off the kickoff, Drew dives in at this, ends up playing out. Up high, Drew looking for a touch. Rampage reads it off the wall, and that will drop with no time left, making that game 2. We'll see Apollo taking a 2-0 lead in this series. All these games have been close, so there is still a reasonable chance that Surfcyde ends up making this series go 5. Looking at this one, making sure that all players are ready. It looks like Apollo will be doing another switch, trying to get all of their players at least 2 games. Is back in this one. Clad joins. With that, we should be about ready. Since they made it, I believe we will say all good on this one. Well, actually, it looks like back to it. Clad in blue, meeting at the center kickoff. This one plays out, Rampage with the catch. Rampage looking for a flick, ends up getting over Blue, but Drew takes possession of this one. Going high, jumps back out. Drew does end up being able to get a touch on it, but unfortunately not quite able to wrap around it, and that drops to Rampage, who will take the scoring chance and make sure he converts this one. It seems as though the house was sent, and when the house ended up getting just barely wide on that one, it bounces out straight to Rampage, and he took that opening. Off kickoff, back to Clad. Clad trying to possess this one from the ground with a quick flick over Blue. Tries to play back towards center, looking for it. Wraps around it. Drew is there sitting on it, ready for it with a great save. Drew plays out to center, and him and Rampage are playing on this one. 50 back across where Blue should be able to take. Blue with a quick pinch back towards the center. Clad is up for that, but it ends up being left for Rampage. Rampage looking back center. Drew takes off his hood. Off the sidewall again. Blue and Clad jumping for that one. Ends up playing back to the corner where Drew is sitting on it. Clad plays back towards center and ends up finding himself with an open net on that. He ends up converting for the net. Once that one came back across and it played back towards the wall, Clad was ready with the read on the wall play and was able to convert when it went across the center. Rampage and Drew back at the center line. Blue playing this one, and up just wide. Sitting on it, playing slow. Drew takes offside wall, looking for it with a quick touch, back down. As Clad will intercept. Blue looks like he should be able to wrap back around it, and he does. pushing it back towards the corner, where Clad tries to center this in a pass down to Rampage, and Rampage with the shot that goes just over the orange defender and puts it right into the net. With the passing play there out of Clad and Rampage, it's hard to make a read on it, as defense can't be caught positive who's shooting, but the pass ends up going perfectly to his teammate and ends up getting a touch just over the defender. Back to the kickoff, Clad ends up putting the scoring chance on, but Drew is there for the task. Rampage playing out of the corner, and in with a bump on this one, but Drew will take. Drew looking for it into a quick drop down, but Clad Monster ends up playing that back towards the corner, where Blue will take this one. Blue playing to the center, almost on, ends up being just high of the net. Ball ends up back with him, but he ends up prioritizing the boost on this play. It ends up coming back his direction. Rampage plays this one high and out, looking for it, but Drew will say not in this direction, so he plays back towards the blue side half. Rampage playing out of the blue side corner, looking for it, playing high into an air dribble, and that air dribble is smooth, and that is going to beat the defense with the quick air dribble. He just kept that one right on his car. That air dribble was able to beat the defense. Sometimes it is just ending up being hard. Some days it's yours, some days it's not, as we see a GG's in the chat. Ideally, though, we can still see some good gameplay out of these guys, because they really were putting it on earlier. It's just unfortunate when you find yourself down 2 games in a series. A 50 between Clad and Blue, and that is ending up to the orange net. Clad ends up coming in on the 50 and getting the better of that one, as it finds itself just inside the left goalpost. And it will lead for a 5-goal lead for Apollo with 2.5 left. Ideally, we don't see this do much more for the Mentals, but I do hope that we at least see good Rocket League for the remaining. Rampage is going high on this one into the redirect from Clad as he hits off the crossbar. Not quite able to find a lot more. Drew playing towards the center, past the Blue, ends up getting read by Rampage. Rampage looking back across. It's what looks like a fake on one, but then it's end up played out, and Clad will possess that ball and put it into the back of the orange side net. Rampage back at the kickoff. Ends up going for it. Shot far side. Ends up converting off the hop off the wall. And with this one, it's kind of getting a little bit to the point where it's looking like the teams have decided that this series might be heading towards the end. Off that kickoff. I mean, we're going to play this as long as the players are willing, but I'll let Apollo make the call on it. We find ourselves out of Brazil at this current moment, but it's pushing on for Orange. As Orange plays this one, Drew tries to play across, ends up shooting to the center, and Blue with the shot. Not quite able to convert. Clad finds himself in the opening, and he ends up converting with a musty on it to end up finalizing. All right. I'm willing to say the teams obviously can state this one out themselves. Because I definitely would at least say technically the match was held, and at this point it is something where Apollo is just going to find themselves looking like they're taking this series with a convincing Game 3. Games 1 and 2 were very close, finding it being where that was the tight-nipped and everyone was playing at their best. But in Game 3, it seems like the spirits might have kind of fell out with 9-1 with a minute left.
60 seconds left on the clock.
Clad plays up out of the side corner. Drew Minton pushes this back across. Into Blue, going for the touch on this one. Blue plays back out. Drew with the quick touch towards the net where Clad meets that one. Clad pushes it back down into the orange half. In the orange half, Clad plays back towards the net. Blue is sitting on it, making sure it doesn't quite go in. From here, Drew grabs the ball, looking, tries to go for a fake on Rampage, not quite able to execute. Blue plays high. Rampage gets the touch back down, tries to center for Drew, but Clad is waiting on it. Drew with the touch that will end up going back to Blue. Blue plays out of his own corner, towards it, going for something off the wall, but ends up falling down Clad, and this will then be played high where Drew takes into the blue side. Rampage ends up taking, and back with this one, Drew with the flick high into the blue side with a quick shot, and it ends up going just wide. But that is where we will end this one, as Apollo find themselves taking a 3-0 sweep. It really was a good Game 1 and 2 where both teams were on display, and then Game 3, I don't know if it was internet problems, as I do see a bit of lag in that, where that is definitely a possibility, and if internet gets the best of you and you're down 2, it's kind of unfortunate in that situation. Alright, putting this down was all for the playing it out. Overall, though, I appreciate you guys having me cast. I'm thankful for that opportunity, so thank you all so much. It was fun casting, and I hope you guys at least enjoyed. You guys have a good one. I will be back in about an hour and a half for my next cast. Thank you all. Goodbye.